Hey guys, Jack here from thebikedads.com. Here today to talk about how to rebuild a kid's bike fork. Today we're going to be looking at the 20-inch carbon air fork that comes on the Trailcraft and the Vpace and the Prevelo and the Spawn. They're all the same fork, comes out of the same factory, and there's not really a lot online about it. There's a great video that I'll link in the description below from Brian from Little Shredder. He rebuilds it. It's kind of done on an iPhone, so I thought I'd do a little more clear to see how to rebuild it. The number one thing on rebuilding these forks is don't be afraid. You don't have to take the air spring apart to get the majority of the benefit from rebuilding this fork. The biggest thing is dropping the lowers and just really lubing those a lot with slickoleum, and we'll go through that in this video. So please don't be afraid. This is something that every bike dad and bike mom, you spent the money on these bikes, so it's great if you do have the time to service them themselves, and if not, support your local suspension service place, and they'll also do a fantastic job. So let's dive on in. Any questions, just leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to you guys as soon as I can. Okay, let's get at it. You shouldn't be afraid to do a lower air service. If you know how to lube your chain, how to put air in a fork, air in the tires, you can check your PSI, you're most likely be able to do this. There's a couple of tools you'll need. What you're going to need, I always keep a pick handy. These are some adjustable wrenches. These are awesome. If you want a good Father's Day gift, I'd highly recommend, or Mother's Day, that you get a pair of Nipex pliers. You need some O-ring pliers, you need a 9mm deep socket, some flush cutters are great for getting off zip ties and such. You need a shock pump, variety of Allen keys, all the way from 1.5 all the way up to 6, that's for the stem. Some slickoleum, and some 20-weight shock 20-weight shock oil. You can use a little bit. I did use a tiny bit of 5-weight in the lowers as well. Let's get this fork off the bike, see what happens. So one of the most important safety tips I can give you, make sure you take the air out of the fork. Once you have all the air out of the fork, you can start taking out the foot nuts. So this is your rebound side. Red is pretty much universal for rebound. So you're going to take that off. This is a 1.5 mil. A little bit of dirt. So anytime you do find some dirt and such in the process, spray her off. When you're putting this back together, this barrel here will spin around and around, and making sure you take note that there's a little indent. So that's where your rebound screw will go, just in here. The screw here will recess in there. So when you're putting that back together, make sure you got that. So now these are your foot nuts. You need to undo both of them. They are 9mm sockets. You don't want to damage this, so you want to make sure that you've got a deeper socket one as well. So what I usually do with suspension forks, even on adult bikes, is I like to take them out, and then sometimes they get stuck inside. No, that one's good. And sometimes you have to give them a little knock. Always make sure you're not hammering these here or anything like that. Those just disengaged. Sometimes if it does get a little stuck, I thread it on 3 or 4 turns, and then just give it a little mallet tap. In this case, they separated with ease. Once you have your 2 foot nuts out, kind of angle it a bit, you can take the lowers off. Not too bad, considering this has been through a couple of kids. We'll clean it up and see how she goes. Now you're going to need some lock ring pliers. We've got some 4 holes in here. Now remember, you have taken all the air out of this fork. Now to get the air spring out, just put some air in the fork. Once you've got your bottom out, this has been through 4 kids and it still looks pretty darn good. I think my airhead piston is still in there on the top of this guy here. And what we're going to do, we're just going to clean this up and whatnot, and we'll make sure that we get that piston out, and I'll show you how. And there you go. I pumped her out. There she went. Now to get the air seal head out. So these are pretty baller wrenches. However, you can use them instead of getting chamferless sockets. And just for fun, we'll take out the lockout side as well. Keep in mind these forks are ridden by majority of people that are under 80 pounds. My daughter I think is 45, so I do notice there is a little ball bearing right here that you're going to have to put back in for this to work. Here's your air spring. Now the head's removable. Got some nice grease in there. Here's your bottom seal, air seal head. O-ring still looks good. Yeah, there's your foot nuts. Slickoleum, little tidbit. Cut a hole in the top of your jug and use a painter, like an artistic brush, or toothbrush even works great. I've got another one up here too. So I'm just going to clean this, wipe it down, and then relube it. Now what we're going to do is just give her a good clean. Just using a little bit of slickoleum. No idea about torque. Tight. Don't forget to put that tiny little ball bearing back in. Some 20 weight oil.
No, wait, sorry.
Let's put a little drop in here. Not
That's
too
a
much.
big drop.
Not a big drop. Also a little bit of slickoleum on your seal head. Just very, very, very thin. So now we've dealt with our uppers, now we got to deal with our lowers. So as you can see, the lowers aren't too bad. We're just going to clean them up with some alcohol and such, and then we're going to lube up the seals. The seals look decent. There's no foam. There's no foam washers in there. Now remember, when you're putting this one on, you want to find the little nub. Do it super tight, really hard to turn. Go tight, just a smidgen back. Spins nicely, doesn't come off. Give it another clean before you put everything back together. Keep in mind when you take this fork out for the first time, I haven't tightened the stem bolts, that's why the fork is spinning and the bars aren't. Keep in mind with the slickoleum and the smidgen of oil we did put in, you're going to want to make sure that you bring a rag with you your first ride, because some will gush out of the seals, and that's totally normal. There you have it. Fresh rebuild of the Brood Spawn Prevelo Trailcraft Vpace 20-inch carbon fork. This fork's awesome. It's been through 4 kids now. It's on to its 5th with my daughter here, and it'll go to my son when she grows out of it. So yeah, these things are silly expensive, but they amortize themselves through the years, and this one actually works, so it's worth its money. If you have any questions, things that you do differently, tricks or tips for the bike parent community out there, drop them in the links below. Thanks for watching. If this helps, give us a subscribe, like, all that jazz. Follow us on Instagram. Don't forget to see us on our website at www.thebikedads.com for the best in kids bikes. See you on the trails, everyone.